Welcome to the Dansportstips NFL preview for the 2016 season. We are taking a look at the AFC East today. The New England Patriots, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to start straight away with the New England Patriots even, at Arizona versus Miami, at home to Houston, at home to Buffalo. Two winnable division games at home, 75% of those three games are at home. The significance of those games, Tom Brady is suspended for those 4 games. Jimmy Garoppolo cannot and will not attain Brady levels of performance, but if LeGarrette Blount runs well, with a couple of solid tight end receiving options as a security blanket in Gronkowski and Bennett, and a solid receiver in Julian Edelman, they won't have to. They won't have too much to do. At least a 2-2 result from the suspension games is going to be what they need. The schedule isn't that unkind to the Pats. The opener at Arizona is the difficult game. Houston might be a touch hard as well, but they are at home. Anything worse than 2-2 is going to be a problem for this team, as they will then have lost at least one divisional game at home. The question is, can the defense keep them in these games? Chandler Jones, who was at the top end in terms of individual sack numbers last year in the NFL, has been traded to Arizona for much needed offensive line help. He's been replaced by an aging and largely ineffective for a while Chris Long in the defensive end rotation. That ups the pressure on Ninkovich and Sheard to produce from that position. They look adequate at defensive tackle. They boast a couple of good linebackers in Collins and Hightower. I'd be worried if Shane McClellan gets on the field all that often for them. The secondary does all you can ask. It plays solid coverage and they tackle well. If the front 7 can make up for the pressure that Chandler Jones generated that will not be there, then this unit will be fine and the Patriots look set for another run. On offense, the line was terrible last year. Jonathan Cooper came over from the Cardinals in the Chandler Jones trade. That will help if he stays healthy. That's the $1 million question on him though. Can I phone a friend? Nate Solder will be back from injury. Sebastian Vollmer will be efficient. So if Cooper is healthy for 16 games, this line looks better this year. I would be concerned about the run game with Dion Lewis needing a second surgery. That means they are looking at the tandem of LeGarrette Blount, who hasn't necessarily stayed healthy himself or remained consistent during his tenure, and James White at the running back position. Brady could be throwing the ball more often this year, which is where the addition of Martellus Bennett is shrewd, and they can run their favoured 12 personnel along with Julian Edelman and whoever emerges from the pack to take the other wide receiver targets in this offense, as a different player seems to do so every year, filling that role. Chris Hogan from Buffalo looks a likely man for the role. I think the Pats are good enough to ride out this Brady suspension to play in January, but ultimately it may cost them in the long run in terms of seeding. They may well not get a first round bye, or certainly not get home field anyway. But hell, they won 11 games the year that Brady missed 15 and a half games and Matt Castle started. So the Patriots do what the Patriots do, and I think they're still going to get to probably 11 wins this year. The rest of the division just doesn't look that great. The New York Jets, the schedule is a lot harder in teams for the AFC East this year. Gone is the dream scenario of facing the NFC East and the AFC South like they did last year. They draw the AFC North and the NFC West, which is about as bad as it gets. The Jets' moves have been, shall we say, odd this year. After the retirement of DeBrickashaw Ferguson at left tackle, they brought in Ryan Clady from Denver. That's fairly, that's not bad, apart from one thing. I mean, Clady is a good tackle, but he's 30 years old, and he's a short-term answer, and he has a checkered injury history, has been plagued by injury, missing large parts of 2 of the last 3 seasons. For a team with a lot of talent at the top end of the pay scale, and no depth in between, this could be a problem all across the board. Of course, if you can get older at one position, then it's got to be running back, hasn't it? They jettisoned Chris Ivory off of one of his best seasons and replaced him with newly turned 30 Matt Forte. Now, outstanding as Forte has been since he entered the league for Chicago, he has seen a lot of work and he's hit that dreaded number 30 of his age now. And that's when running backs often hit the wall. Another move that makes little sense. Ryan Fitzpatrick remains under centre. This is a move that makes sense for both sides. I mean, Fitzpatrick ended up coming back as nobody wanted him to pay what he thought he was worth, and that is probably the key. I mean, there is also at this stage unsurprising lack of depth at the quarterback position. They've got Bryce Petty, Geno Smith and Christian Hackenberg in behind him. They needed Fitzpatrick as much as Fitzpatrick needed them. All of those players behind him can be considered nothing more than prospects. The roster is almost a classic fantasy football stars and scrubs roster build, with Forte, Marshall, Decker on offence, the likes of Revis, Wilkinson and Pryor on defence. The majority of those names are closer to the end of their careers than the beginning, and there is no depth. There's nothing in between. As I keep saying the same thing about the roster. For any form of relevance for this team, Fitzpatrick's going to have to be better than last year as the schedule's harder. I'm not sure I can see that happening. It was the best year of his career. The team has got older. They have to stay healthy as they can't take any injuries with the lack of depth. This looks like a house of cards that could all come crashing down with just 1 or 2 injuries in the wrong place. They likely won't get blown out a lot because I do trust Todd Bowles, the head coach, defensively. However, there's no way in hell this team is making the playoffs this year, which brings me to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills last year were the anomaly amongst all Rex Ryan teams in a team that was good offensively. LeSean McCoy should be back, and if he stays healthy, then the rushing attack that excelled last year is likely to do so again. Plenty of screens, read options for McCoy, and Tyrod Taylor keeping the ball as well out of the backfield, setting up play-action passes where they were one of the best teams in the league. Taylor will need to get top receiving option Sammy Watkins on the field and healthy at the earliest possibility. They hooked up on a number of deep passes last year. The next best option behind Watkins seems to be Robert Woods. That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. There isn't depth at receiver. Watkins must be healthy. The Bills' strong run game, as I say, bore fruit with play-action passing. So the health of McCoy, which is a spotty history, he missed multiple games last year, with backup Carlos Williams no longer on the team, is critical. Their offensive line was excellent last year, if not somewhat penalty prone, which is very much the nature of a Rex Ryan team. Buffalo was the most penalised team in the league last year. Arguably, on defence, the trio of Marcel Darius, Kyle Williams and Jerry Hughes should be good. They weren't last year. The Bills ranked 31st in sacks somehow with those players. The addition of Rex's brother Rob from the awful defence in New Orleans is also somewhat concerning, though I would hope that Rex has more of a say, as we've seen him build some very good defences before. The team, if the defence rebounds and gets production in the pass rush from the front seven and continued offensive efficiency and big playability, could actually be quite good, and potentially the likeliest of a somewhat unlikely bunch to take advantage of the Brady absence and pounce on the Patriots. There are just too many questions that raise just enough doubts for me to be able to want to say that about this team, though. And finally, the Miami Dolphins. I mean, the main addition for the Dolphins this year is the new head coach. They've hired Adam Gase, who was the offensive coordinator that took the Tebow-led Broncos to a playoff win, resurrected Jay Cutler and made him look reliable at quarterback last year. This earned him a shot at another reclamation project in Ryan Tannehill in Miami. The team has made some interesting decisions. It seems to be you've got the Patriots, who are a well-run organisation, and then some teams that make interesting decisions in this division. They never used Lamar Miller properly in Miami, certainly not to full effect. He's left in free agency, so they've replaced him with Arian Foster, who he's replacing in Houston. 30-year-old Arian Foster, off of season-ending surgery, not for the first time in his career, who's 30 years old. Doesn't seem sensible. They do have some underrated receivers. Jarvis Landry, deep threat Kenny Stills, potential with Devontae Parker. They also have a reasonably solid looking offensive line. First rounder Laramie Tunsil is going to add to that. They have a good centre in Mike Pouncey, newly signed Jamon Bushrod and Brandon Albert. Offensively, apart from concerns with durability and depth at running back, where a Foster regression or injury, neither of which is unlikely, could result in an awfully one-dimensional attack, the offense does actually profile to be better, almost by the addition of Gase, if nothing else, over last year's coaching. Defensively, they've got a lot of names on their line. Mario Williams and Ndamukong Suh, Cameron Wake. All these players are either volatile, ageing, or both, and they will need to perform at the top end to protect the secondary that contains Rashad Jones and not a lot else. The subtraction of Olivier Vernon hurts the defence, but if the price that he costs is the price that he costs, then it's hard to blame the Dolphins, though they couldn't afford that with the salary, with their cap situation. Byron Maxwell is another of the ex-Seahawks, who has become apparent was a product of scheme, and Kiko Alonso was hurt in Philly last year after a solid start to his career with Buffalo. He now finds himself back in the AFC East. If he can return to a semblance of his rookie, I think he was rookie of the year in Buffalo. If he can return to that sort of form, then I guess Miami have got themselves a reasonable deal there. Ultimately, I do think the Dolphins will be better than last year, though it won't take many injuries to derail them defensively, and they do look set to fall in line with the rest of the division, which in all likelihood is looking up at the Patriots at season end as the status quo in the AFC East continues. My bets in this division, I'm going to take New England to win more than 10.5 games. I think they're going to get to 11-5. I do think they'll be at least 2-2, if not 3-1 after the Brady suspension, and they'll kick on from there. The New York Jets, I think, is the team with the most potential for it all to come crashing down this year. I'm happy to play them to finish 4th in the AFC East. I will take with Buffalo. I'll trust he stays healthy. I'll take LaShawn McCoy to score the most touchdowns with them. That's the only thing that really stands in your way, is if McCoy gets injured and spends an extended period on the sidelines. It is odds on, so it's a short price, but I'll trust that McCoy, who was never healthy from the start of last year, can stay on the field this year. And I'll take Jordan Cameron to score the most touchdowns for Miami. Adam Gase's systems are tight end friendly, as we've seen with Julius Thomas in Denver. We've seen with Martellus Bennett in Chicago. The tight ends do get a lot of targets. They are utilised in the red zone. Jordan Cameron is a big target, and you can't trust Arian Foster to stay healthy either. So I think, you know, as he would probably be considered the main danger, he is the favourite in the market. I think 10-1 for Jordan Cameron to score the most touchdowns for Miami this season is a really good bet. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen in the AFC East this season. Don't forget to like the video. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a follow on Twitter. I will be here throughout the NFL season with weekly content. Stay tuned for the rest of the day for the whole of the AFC preview and my outright bets. See you later.